Welcome everybody to another video of Film Addicts, and this is Chili,
and this is Kent,
and we just finished watching Rise of the Planet of the Apes. What are your thoughts? This is the first of three trilogy. It's a prequel to the original Planet of the Apes series.
So, who doesn't love a good flick about revolution? And when you add into the mix intelligent apes and gorillas and orangutans arming themselves to fight the man, so to speak.
And they have, but they do have a handicap because of the drugs. They're super apes. They become super apes, and then there's a plague too, right?
Talk about like rapid evolution. I mean, when you say a handicap for the apes or for the humans, because definitely for the humans, I'd say.
Well, because the drugs are not only making the apes super strong, but it's crippling the humans. So it's a win-win for the apes, which to me seem like the heroes of this film. They're oppressed. It's just like Nazi Germany. They're used as, experimental research, and they're treated poorly.
If you're watching this movie and you're siding with the humans, I just don't trust you. I don't think you're a trustworthy person. You're not somebody I want to bring over for Thanksgiving. There's just...
Well, the one woman in there who's the love interest of Franco was kind of saying that the treatment of Caesar as a domesticated chimpanzee was cruel. It was against nature, because he should be out there in his own habitat. But even the fact that they have that prison where all the apes go, the shelter, that in itself was cruel.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not this activist. I'm not out there fighting for PETA or whatever organization. But I never really liked the idea of zoos.
No, I don't either.
I've done some like volunteer work in the past on around different animals, and I don't know. It feels weird. You'll watch like a documentary, right? And like there's the lions or the hyenas or whichever animal, and they're killing it out there, right?
Yeah.
You that's why you watch it. You want to see what they do out in the wild. It's mesmerizing, so to speak. But then you just see them in like a cage, right? And they're just sitting there.
Them.
They're just looking around.
They have like this little painting behind them, like it's the like it's Africa or something. Like the safari.
It kind of reminds me of remember that Twilight Zone episode
where the human was in the.
They have like they have a little makeshift house for them,
right?
And then they realize like, oh shit, we're in a zoo.
Yeah.
Really put things into perspective. I love Twilight Zone, but this movie, I'm not huge on the beginning of the movie. It starts off in I guess it's like a pharmaceutical company, and James Franco is playing around with this miracle drug that's supposed to cure Alzheimer's, because he does have a motivation. His dad,
John Lithgow,
has Alzheimer's, dementia. He's slipping away. You can see it throughout the film. He clearly used to play the piano, right? He can't play the piano. He's very forgetful. And James Franco's working on this drug. And in the beginning of the movie, they're testing on apes. The reason I don't necessarily like it is it's a little ridiculous, because one of the most intelligent ape somehow gets out.
There's a side effect.
There's like I know when it comes to like hospitals, and when it comes to like scientists working in laboratories and big companies, there's a lot of parameters put in place, like in terms of safety measures. And the way that whole thing was handled, it just felt so sloppy. It was almost a little hard. to overlook. Next thing you know, the ape so happens to break out of all these different parameters, and
you had to move the story quickly.
Yeah, at the end of the, I do get that. I understand the just cause of it, but there's a meeting going on at the same time while this is happening, where James Franco is expressing all the benefits of this miracle drug to like a board of investors, and bam, ape busts through the the glass. That's I guess the window to this conference room, and out goes all the possible funds that could go into funding this so-called miracle drug.
We find out later why, because that champ was trying to protect her baby.
Good old Bright Eyes.
Yes, and Bright Eyes. There's a lot of callbacks to the original film. You know, like Bright Eyes, Cornelius. It's Cornelius. You know, and you do get to see, and I missed it the first time until you pointed it out, was the Charlton Heston's crew blasting off. You know?
Icarus.
Yeah, Icarus. So
I was like, if you guys have ever seen like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, I forget which movie it's from, where he's just like this.
Yeah.
He's like, Chili, look.
Yeah.
It's a fucking.
And I'm like, no, is that it? Yeah, and then that was cool. I thought that was cool. So you're kind of having an understanding of the timeline on what's going on. Like, oh shit, like they're gonna go to the future, and so. Because at first when I saw this film, I didn't think this was going to be anything that had to do anything with the old series.
Thought it was just a complete reboot.
Yeah, I just thought it was just like
here's another Mark Wahlberg type.
Yeah, I thought it was like its own, but I'm like, okay, so there's a lot of, callbacks to all this, the like they're just paying homage to it, but then when that ship is blasting off, I'm like, okay, that's where Charlton Heston is in. Taylor is on that ship, so that's cool.
James Franco also as a doctor, I don't know, it's I think the script, the story is well written. Sometimes his acting not so great, especially in the doctor department. The CEO, I don't know if he's the CEO, but one of the heads of the company, he also isn't that great, but when it comes to being kind of I would say a father figure, or playing it more from like a personable angle in the household, like his dad and
that was
Caesar.
okay.
I think he did good there.
Yeah.
So the movie, what I'm trying to say is, I think the beginning was a little shaky. I know when I first watched it, and even now I'm still thinking it's a bit of a stretch, but I understand it kind of lunges you forward, so it does serve a good purpose. But it's just all up from that point, I feel.
I like when they just finally just broke out and just took over, and especially the people that were oppressing them, the people at the shelter. The one guy was an asshole.
So many satisfying moments.
Yeah, that big ape too, the gorilla.
It just goes to show too, you don't even need a character to have dialogue in order to really. I've seen movies, and I'm sure you'd agree, where somebody is talking. They got a speaking role for 40 minutes, and you're, I don't care about this person. But the gorilla,
Maurice was cool. I like Maurice.
You
see, that was a callback because it was he kind of referencing Caesar in Conquest, where he was the circus chimpanzee. Mm-hmm. So because he was all, I was a circus orangutan or something like that. So, and orangutans in the original series, they were the elder statesmen. They were the smart ones in society. So he was the smartest one of those apes, because he was like, oh, you could sign, remember? And he's just like, yeah, and apes are stupid. He was just like,
Yeah, what's really cool about this movie is you can see the progression in Caesar, and the fact that he doesn't talk, and you can see it in his eyes and his face and his expression, his body language. That is dope for the simple fact that we're not looking at human, we're looking at CGI, and for its time, 2011, when I was watching this, I'm like, they did a fucking
I forgot who's the guy who plays Caesar, and they use his facial
I know what he looks like.
Yeah, because he was in I think Lord of the Rings too. The other one,
Oh,
the Hobbit series, wasn't he? No, he was in.
I think he was Gollum. Was he Gollum? I think he was. I'm gonna go off on a limb here and say he was Gollum.
I know he
could
was
be
in
wrong.
the last Star Wars trilogy. I know he was in that one. I forgot what he played because didn't really care for that last trilogy, but he was in that.
I vaguely remember him playing a mean Australian. I don't know where that's from. All right, but I digress. Movie.
This one was really good.
He just rises above.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Black Flag while he was starting to motivate everyone else, like all the other apes, to just kind of follow him, and everything that he did just made sense. It wasn't, and that's the thing too. Although he's extremely smart, they didn't. They kept it simple, right? Like he picked a lock, right? He was sharing cookie. It was nothing super elaborate. I would have been pissed off if next thing you know, the apes are doing a elaborate
he was
crap.
sort of kind of having community within the apes. He's kind of like teaching them community, like we all help each other, because he knows that alone apes are weak, but together they're strong, and so
He kept it simple.
Yeah.
He kept to the simple formula, and today that simple formula is so often like overlooked, and in a sense, like the brotherly love that all those. I mean, at first there wasn't a lot of brotherly love, but he kind of brought them all together, and they weren't against each other, like he said, like apes together strong. I thought it was dope to see because all the humans are bickering with one another, and then you have these apes coming together. I mean, obviously, I don't want the world to be taken over by apes, but.
I don't know. It's a lot better than what we got now, but I wouldn't mind. But I just felt like the community was good. However, I did not understand. Okay, I could understand him not wanting Franco to be harmed, but throughout the film, he's kind of like, no, don't fuck with that guy, or like maybe he just he knows who is like, okay, this guy's an asshole, he deserves that, but leave this guy alone. You know what I mean? Did you notice that? Like even on the bridge, he would be like, no, just don't. He would say.
Well, I think that
he had some
you ever
humanity.
watch those videos? You ever see those? Well, not even that. I've seen videos before where there's African lions that were released back in the wild, right? And they recognize the people who brought them up, and like they would run over, right? And it'd be like a little like meet and greet, like, oh, it's so good. It's as if they're talking to each other, even though it's been years. So Caesar clearly, I guess when it comes to bonds and attachments, it's not even so much a human thing. Like animals, I would say, have that too. He had that attachment.
Yeah, but not to just Franco, but to strangers.
Oh,
that's what I was talking about.
Okay,
like
okay.
They would try to kill like some other cops, and he would say no. Remember?
Well, I'm sure Franco, he understood language. It seems like so. Franco probably had like basic morality 101. It was instilling those values.
Well, because he did bite the first guy's finger off, right? The guy who ended up being the one who's going to spread this whole thing. So
when it comes to rage, one thing about apes, gorillas, they are some mean son of a bitches.
Yeah, she mentioned that. She's all the chimpanzees are really strong. In reality they are. But so, you know what I mean? So at first he did, like, bite that guy's finger off, but then later...
Immediately remorseful, though, when he did do it.
I think he was remorseful because...
He did it to protect...
Yeah.
His grandpa.
Yeah.
And he was in shock. I think it wasn't so much remorse about hurting the guy. It was more so like, oh man, like what have I?
Yeah,
I scared everybody.
Now he's gonna be locked up.
Now he's locked
because they always told him to stay in. You know what I mean? So I mean, but that's the thing. I just don't understand the connection of him, like sparing humans' lives, where everyone else was just like fuck them. right? Because if you just go back to the bridge scene and like when some apes are really gonna like the big ape, the gorilla was gonna smash that guy, and he's like, no.
Well, also Caesar was probably influenced by movies and books. That's the thing, though. That's what's so great about it is he's innocent.
Well, I don't think he as yet understands that this is not a war yet. He's just I guess he's just trying to get his people out, right?
And that's just because the other movies too, which we're going to dive into. I've already seen all three of these. It has a great the when it comes to rewatching them, I would definitely say that the rewatchability is there.
Yeah, I was just locked in. I was like, wow, this is great. And so, I mean, I really like how this one sets up the rest of them. It's just like it kind of left you hanging like you wanted more at the end of this film. I mean, it ended. I mean, like even if this wasn't successful and it wasn't calling for a sequel, it could have just stand alone. Like, okay, that was cool.
He just has all those great character traits, right? So there's the fact that I think there was the belief that there's something bigger than him. He could have always gone back to. There's a part in the movie where he could have gone back to his old way of life, so to speak. But he saw
the oppression.
He saw the oppression. He couldn't stand by it. He had all of his kind looking at him like, okay, what now, boss? You got us this far. He couldn't turn his back, and that was the whole thing with Caesar. He had metaphorically like a knife in his back because the humans, like even his the people that he thought he could trust, he was locked up, and they had just said, oh yeah, we're gonna try. Eventually, James Franco's character tried to actually make it right, but at that point,
it was too late.
It was too late.
He erased that, the little window he drew, which became their symbol, which was really cool. You see it like when they're taking over the city, they spray painted it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's cool. That was really cool.
A lot of cool things. They broke off the cage, the metal bars, I suppose, to the zoo, and they're using it as spears. And just when they were crossing the bridge, right, and the strategy of like half go up, half go below. The apes teamed up to kind of use the bus as a barrier from the barrage of bullets from the police.
It was more like a distraction, though.
I did find
because they were up in the fog and you couldn't see them.
That was convenient. But what I did find funny is that there weren't a lot more helicopters on scene. And Chili was saying, well,
I think it was just too... I mean, because that helicopter came from the compound. It came from... Remember?
Right. But we already see police... So when you think about distance, when you think about all the miles that those apes had to cross... And you're telling me there weren't more helicopters out?
Because it was from the other side. It was from the other side of the bridge. It wasn't on... They weren't coming from the side of the bridge from the city.
But... I mean, they were leaving the city to go towards...
Were they?
That's where they were going, to the Redwoods.
Okay, because they did go to the lab.
Right.
To get the shit, right?
Right.
To get the drugs.
It sounds dope when you think about it that way.
To get their shit. And
they couldn't do it intravenously anymore. They wanted to They want to get gassed.
Yeah, he had a whole party to get high.
Actually, it was a muscular shot.
Right. Okay, so that they were heading back.
My point is this though: there were horses on. There was a whole squad of guys on horses, a police force. A couple little goofy things here. The horses got there before all the police vehicles and the helicopter. Somehow the horse cops got there first. And then, another weird thing.
Well, you know what? There was a lot of cars that were blocked off. They couldn't get in there because, all the people were there and they traffic was stuck and everyone got out of their cars. Everything was fucked up.
So we don't have more motorcycle cops?
But no, I don't think they have that many in the center.
But here's the thing. I don't like a cop's salary. I don't know what they're getting paid.
They were defunding.
I don't know what they're getting paid in this universe.
Defund the police.
You couldn't pay me enough to get on a horse with a baton in my hand and then look out into on
those super apes.
And they're super apes.
They have green eyes and they're just.
Not only is it just apes, there's gorillas.
Right.
Silverback gorillas, and then I'm gonna charge in.
It was just one big gorilla. That was a cool.
But he's wailing on a gorilla,
I know.
right? And he's on a horse, and that man, I want to know what his background is. Does he have a family? Did he lose everything? He has nothing to live for? So I suppose the ending was satisfying, but the ending and the beginning were a stretch. Everything else there were some little stretchy parts, but. Given that it's a movie, I can overlook it because it's a great movie. But
I thought the pace was good.
Yeah, and there was some humor, and everyone. It's so satisfying when people get what they deserve. So if you want to watch a movie where people get what they deserve, this is the ultimate. You get what you reap what you sow.
And if you're ever having the moment of just like you just hate people and you just hate everyone. Like everyone's like a fucking asshole. Like you're having one of those moments. Then put this on.
If you need a break from the media, they're just like spewing hateful things in all directions. If you need a break from your terrible job, or and you know what? If everything's going good, it's still a great family movie. It's a look at the apes come together and they bond.
Yeah.
They share cookies.
And he finds his home. He didn't know he was home. He was just kind of brainwashed the whole time.
All right. So I'd say, in terms of like newer movies,
I think
this is like a future. I would say to own it out of 5. I'd probably give this movie. I'm gonna go past 4, and I'm gonna say like a 4 point. Yeah, I was saying 4.2. I wasn't gonna say 4 1/4, but
that's what I give it. 4 1/4.
You got 0.5. Okay. I'm gonna do. Dang. Now you got me thinking 4 1/4.
4 1/4.
Because I was gonna say 4.2, but okay. I'm also 4.25. I'm 4 1/4.
Okay, that's it. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and we'll be back with what's the next one? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Otherwise known as Koba's Amazing.
Oh yeah, there's
the
fucking saga continues.
I'm a Koba fanboy.
Are you?
Yeah.
So I'm still.
I don't know. Maybe my bias. So I'll rewatch it and think, oh, it wasn't as good as the first one. But I know when I originally watched these movies, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was my favorite one.
I don't know. I really liked this one when it came out and I saw it in the theater. I was like, yeah, that was.
Oh, this one's up there.
Cool.
This one would probably be in my top 3, including the classics and the new ones.
Yeah, but the second one, it seems like sometimes I have a difficult time with second films, Act 2, because as George Lucas says, the first one in the trilogy is like you meet the characters, and the second one is you put them in a situation, and then the third one, Act 3, is you get them out of that situation. So we met these people. We met Koba.
Well, we do have. I think what it is though is. What was I going to say? Like, there's The Dark Knight. There's plenty of examples of like franchises where it's like the second movie's the best.
Better one. Yeah,
Godfather. I know it's a cliche at this point to say Godfather.
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was probably the best sequel in a trilogy. But I guess we'll have to see this second film again, and it's been a minute, but let's see. I'm sure it holds up.
All right, guys.
So we'll see you guys on the
do your
next
thing.
film. Oh yeah, and don't forget to hit the like button, comment on this video. What are your thoughts on Rise of the Planet of the Apes? Did you feel like, I like the old franchise, this was stupid, too much CGI? Or did you think it was the shit? And so subscribe to the channel and hit the like, hit the notification bell so you have updates. So you'll know when we have that next fucking video popping up. So with that, we'll shut up and we'll see you guys on the next film.
All right. Later.
Later.